All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of Just a Girl from Cleveland. This is episode 167. I hope everyone is braving through the cold weather that we have been having lately. I actually can't believe it's already end of December, end of 2024, just about to be 2025. I don't know if this is just a experience with every year you get older. Each year goes faster, I think, because it's a smaller sliver of your life at that point. So it seems so quick. Whereas when you are a kid, each year feels so long. It feels different. So I can't believe we're already here at this point. But I hope everyone is, gonna have a nice holiday. Looking forward to Christmas, whatever you celebrate, New Year's, all that good stuff. I'm not sure if there's going to be an episode or not next week because of Christmas kind of being midweek. We'll kind of just play it by ear and see how my schedule is going, but might not be recording next week. So just TBD on that for future recording updates. Got a couple random things to get into today. I didn't really want to sit here and break down the Browns' loss to the Chiefs because I think, with the way this season has gone, with how much this team has struggled and the issues kind of being repeated issues, I don't know if anyone really wants to sit here and listen to me just say the same thing week after week and be like, yep, they did this wrong again, they did this wrong again, and just kind of sound like a broken record. So gonna take a little bit of a different approach this time. I am gonna talk about Hard Knocks. Obviously, just had episode 3 come out last night. I want to talk about the Chubb injury because that is a big thing from the game that I do want to get into a little bit. And then I took some mailbag questions on Instagram and on Twitter, just to get some thoughts from people of what they wanted to hear about. And a lot of it is kind of future Browns type stuff, not just, current what is going on with the team. So that'll kind of guide some of the conversation here, as well as just a bunch of other random questions. We got some Cavs questions, Guardians questions, Ohio State questions, got the full mix. So thank you to everyone who sent a question over. Let's start just with Hard Knocks because I don't have as much to say about this episode. The Browns were not as involved this week as they were the prior week. I feel like one of the things that they did show was Jim Schwartz talking to the defense in the facility about, having to prepare for Patrick Mahomes and what that looks like. And then they got into a little bit more specifically about a key player in that defense and how he was going to be able to affect the game. And that was Denzel Ward. Just knowing that Patrick can so easily connect with his receivers, having a lockdown corner like Denzel can make a huge difference in a game like that. And then they got into more kind of, the background of Denzel. It was one of the players they kind of decided to take a little bit of a deeper look at, which I very much appreciated because he, has been such a staple of this franchise for a long time. He's from Northeast Ohio, went to Ohio State, does a lot in the community. So I thought it was really nice that they were able to highlight them a little bit. I mean, they even talked about, the importance for him of being a guy from the area and being drafted here and on how cool that is. I have to imagine for his friends and family, that had to be the best feeling in the whole world to be like, the team we cheer for now has our guy on it. That just had to feel so cool. They also talked a lot about the story of his father passing away, which he's talked about this many times, has been very open about this. When he was a freshman in college, his dad passed away from some type of, I don't know if it was a heart attack or just heart issues in general, cardiac issues in general, but obviously had a huge impact on him. And he really talked about how it allowed him to use football as a way to kind of channel his anger and cope with the feelings of that loss in his life at such a young age, and how impactful football was for him, and that he has a foundation that focuses on cardiac health, which then this year led to him getting I think for the second time in his career, the Walter Payton nomination for the Browns. Obviously, every team has a nominee, and he is the Browns nominee this year. They had a really nice moment where they brought his mom into the facility and kind of surprised the both of them with this news, and it was a really sweet moment between the two of them. So really happy for him, and with all of the bad things happening on the team, it's a nice reminder of the people that we are lucky to have on this team that have been through the ups and downs and have continued to contribute even through all of his concussions and issues that he's had. He has continued to try to be there for his team, and I think that's a really respectable thing. And then the only other thing they really talked about, I guess, for the Browns in Hard Knocks, was a little bit of the Chiefs game. They didn't really get into much detail. They focused kind of on how the Browns continue to struggle with the basics, which has been a pattern this year. Can't return the ball correctly to save their lives. They are just muffing punts and kick returns left and right. It is so hard to watch. Turnovers, just the bad moments really have added up for this team this season, and I think that's what they kind of highlighted with the Chiefs game. The Chiefs game was certainly a great example of how this team has done that repeatedly and really shot themselves in the foot. Okay, so that's really all I had to say about Hard Knocks. Like I said, they didn't really get into too much Browns. I feel like it was a heavy Ravens episode, pretty Ravens focused for the most part. But the big thing that happened this week from the Chiefs game that I do want to talk about is the Nick Chubb foot injury. Very unfortunate to see. It's hard to not feel just so terrible for the guy after how hard he fought to get back to this point in general. Obviously, he hasn't really been playing at the top Nick Chubb level that we have seen in years past, but that's to be expected in some ways. I don't know if anyone really expected him to ever be 100% again after his injury in the Steelers game last season. It's just so hard to fully come back from something like that. So I feel so bad for him to see him go down again while he's continuing to try to ramp up the way that he has this season. I don't know what this means for his future with the team. I think that's a big question a lot of people are asking right now. His contract is up at the end of this year, which makes things really complicated. He'll be able to recover much more quickly from this injury than last year's injury, but that still, I think, will have an impact on how they're looking at him in the future and how other NFL teams are looking at him in the future. And I think because of that, I'm wondering if they'll just be able to get him on a cheaper 1 or 2 year deal and bring him back. Not to be the focal point of the run game, because I do think they 100% need to be drafting talent there and finding other ways to fix the issues that the run game has had this year. But I do think that there is a world where they could bring him back on a shorter, cheaper deal, and still have him be a part of this team in the future. I would think actually that Nick, out of anyone, would be someone who would want to make sacrifices to stay in Cleveland, because he's talked about how important the city is to him, how important it was to come back and play after this injury. I could see him, taking some type of deal to stay in Cleveland, understanding that, they're going to have to find other answers in the run game that aren't him, but he can still be, a part of it and a depth piece that they have within that room, because God knows you need it, especially with injuries and everything. It's good to have people around for sure. So I guess we'll see where they go. It's up to Andrew Berry in the front office and Nick if they can get something done that, the two sides feel good about. Okay, so let's get into the mailbag questions. The most questions I got were about the draft, which, we're back to our roots as Browns fans, a little mid-season draft talk when everything is over and you're just like, okay, how are we going to fix this in the future? It feels like a comfortable place to be in a way that we've been here before. I know what it's like. So, just to read off a couple of the questions I got about the draft, I'm going to kind of answer everything, I guess, collectively in one. So the first one was, if you were the GM for the Browns, how would you tackle the draft? Do you bring in a rookie QB you believe in and maybe build up the talent around the position and allow them to develop, and then plug in sorry, let me read that again. Do you bring in a rookie QB you believe in into this roster, or maybe build up the talent around the position, allow them to develop, and then plug in a rookie QB down the road? So that's kind of two routes. It's like, do we go full rookie QB right now, or do we kind of focus on some other positions and then eventually be like, okay, now we're ready to really put this rookie or developed rookie out there when we feel more confident about the pieces around it. The two other big ones, big draft questions that I had revolving around the QB position were, would the Browns consider a QB with the first rounder this year? Who do you expect the Browns to draft 7th overall, assuming that they stay there? So kind of collectively going to talk about quarterback and, what I think that they should do with the position. I don't think that the Browns take a rookie QB in the first round of the draft. I just don't see them going quarterback because I don't know if they're going to be in a position to draft one of those top guys. And at that point, I think they might want to focus on getting other assets, filling other important parts of the roster, and then maybe taking a quarterback in the 2nd round or the 3rd round. I could see them going Jalen Milroe and kind of doing that. Let's take our time on developing him, but we're going to, fix up the offensive line. We're going to fix up the run game. We're going to get, more pieces on the defensive line, and then we'll be kind of, ready to put this fresh talent out there. That's kind of the route I see them taking more. I don't really see them swinging for the fences in the first round. I mentioned offensive line as something that they absolutely need to be thinking about and working on in this year's draft. I think there's a lot of ways that they can go with it, because I think they need guys at nearly every single position. Not that I think they're going to take a center in the first round, but that's something at some point they're going to need to look at. Offensive tackle, guard, there's no shortage of issues on the offensive line right now, and guys who are just getting older, and you have to start thinking about the future at those positions. Like a Joel Bentonio, you've no idea how much longer you're going to have him, and that he's going to be able to play at a high level on this team. So you just need to start thinking about the future for pretty much everyone on that offensive line right now. Couple options of what I think that they could do with a first round pick if they're in that kind of 6-7 position. One being offensive tackle Will Campbell from LSU, and another being Kelvin Banks Jr., another offensive tackle from Texas. They're both projected to be pretty high up there in this draft, so I think that's definitely a route I could see them going if they choose to use that with their first round pick. It's giving me a little PTSD from taking Jedrick Wills around that point, however many years ago that was now, but I feel like that's a likely scenario for them, I think, in this draft. Okay, another quarterback question, but not draft related, that I got. Do you foresee Kirk Cousins as an option for the Browns QB situation in 2025? Potentially, yes. I think regardless of when they draft a quarterback, if it is they somehow do it in the first round, or they choose to do 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, I think they're still going to have to bring in that kind of bridge mid-level QB to kind of carry things over, at least for next season. And there really just aren't that many options when you look at the current landscape of the quarterback position of who could potentially be available. There's just not a lot out there right now. So I do think that between Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, there's just not going to be a lot of names out there unless they're, they want to bring back Jameis or something. I think I could see them really trying to get a deal with one of those two guys. Now, I have no idea what the going rate for both of them is going to be. just because there's so few options available. I don't think the Browns want to overpay in that situation, but I think, if, like I said, if they don't bring back Jameis, I think there's a good chance they're making a real effort to get one of those two guys, even if it doesn't end up working out because of money. I could see Stefanski enjoying working with Sam Darnold, and obviously Kirk, he would be good to work with. I don't know how I feel, though. I will say I'd feel better about Sam Darnold than Kirk. Kirk coming back from another injury, he is getting up there, man. Like, I just don't know if that makes the most sense for them as a bridge quarterback. I would prefer Sam over Kirk, I would say, in that situation. Okay, next question. Who is your current Super Bowl prediction? So if you guys remember from my preseason prediction episode, my thoughts for the Super Bowl were Chiefs versus Lions. And I honestly still like that pick. Like, I think that there is a lot of potential that is the Super Bowl this season. It's hard for me, though, to ignore the Bills right now and just how good the Bills have been. And when I picture a Bills-Lions Super Bowl, that would just be so sick for both of those teams. Both of those fan bases going to New Orleans, having a good time. I would love that for both of them. I just have a hard time still, like, assuming that even though the Bills are firing on all cylinders right now, their offense looks much better than the Chiefs' offense looks. I'm still like, what about the last couple of years? What happens every single time we have this same conversation? It's hard for me to bet against the Chiefs still. But I think this is the most confident I've ever felt that the Bills really could get past them, just for how many weaknesses the Chiefs have shown, and more so how well the Bills are playing. I feel like they're showing less cracks than they have in previous years. So that'll be real interesting to see if they're able to get past them. Okay, an NBA question. Do you think the Cavaliers not making it to Vegas in the NBA Cup could be a blessing in disguise and serve as motivation in the real postseason? Look, obviously the Cup, like, in general actually means nothing. I think I really like it. I think it's been great for the NBA. I think, those play-in Cup games that they have, the couple that, they have within their group, have been really competitive. Teams trying to run up the score at the end to get the point differential. Like, I really genuinely think it's created good competition throughout the season when there might not have been as much effort. So that's a real positive. But I think overall, like, all the players know, other than getting some guys some extra money, in terms of who's going to win the championship that year, it means nothing. The Lakers won last year. The Bucks just won. Like, it doesn't really say much for what's actually going to happen. I think the blessing, though, I guess could be to the question, is, winning something like that, I think, can potentially allow you to get a little bit complacent. And, it's probably good for them with how well they've been playing, how little games that they have lost this season. It's good for them to, like, not get such a big head and be like, okay, we still got to go out there and compete every single night, and, have experiences that, make them resilient players and a resilient team. I think, not making it out of their pool reminds them how important it is to play hard every single night, and how hard it is when teams are giving it their all. I think, that'll just stick in their heads as we get closer and closer to this, the playoffs this year. I think that'll be a good reminder for them. So I guess there are some blessings there of, like, okay, here's good ways to stay motivated. Losing keeps you motivated a lot of times. So I think there's always a blessing in disguise in most situations. There's a silver lining to everything. Okay, next question. We got a baseball questions. Just real general one here, but how are the Guardians looking for 2025? And I kind of wanted to just use this to talk about some of the recent Guardians things that have been happening. Number one, Shane Bieber coming back, which is great for our starting pitching, obviously. So lovely to see another Cleveland athlete take a deal to stay in this city when they got better offers elsewhere. So really grateful for him for that. And I think it shows how much those guys care about each other and care about playing for this city. And then in the more sad news, obviously the Jimenez trade that took us all by surprise. That one hurt a lot. I think the team loves him. I think he has been a really solid player for this team. This most recent year wasn't his best season, but he has been great overall. And I think, you know what, it hurts more, I would say, coming on the backs of the Juan Soto 700 plus million, basically $1 billion deal for 15 years in this league, that it's so frustrating to see those things, and then to see the Guardians be like, yeah, we can't keep anyone around because we can't pay them. It's frustrating. And I feel like they think they can get away with it because this team has shown, obviously this past season, they showed that they were still able to compete at a high level regardless of having, you know, a lot of money to spend, that they're really good at developing and, you know, finding talent and finding great pitching. So I feel like they think they can get away with it, but it makes it almost more frustrating because it's like, no, our guys still deserve more, and they deserve to, you know, be paid and be respected. Like, I don't know, when you trade away someone like Jimenez, I don't know what message that sends to the other guys in the locker room and how they feel about a move like that being made for a player that's, you know, been committed to this team, who they already re-signed to a deal and paid. So that made me sad. But I guess overall, like, look, this team always reloads, so I always feel confident they're going to be able to do that, but it still hurts for sure. Okay, we got some OSU questions next. The first one is feelings on Ryan Day. Will the outcome of the playoffs affect his future? I think I've talked a lot on here about my feelings about Ryan Day. I've been critical of him. I'll continue to be. I just think the aggressive mindset that you need to coach at this level is just not there for him. I mean, the Michigan game was a perfect example of that. He just didn't have that killer mentality that you would like to see in a rivalry game like that. You know, and look, he seems like a nice guy. This isn't like a personal attack on him. I'm sure he is a nice guy and that, you know, he gets along well with people there. I just don't think he has that X factor that it takes to bring championships to the program. I'm not sure, though, that anything he can do in these playoffs are going to affect his future. I feel like just the way that they've operated, his job seems pretty safe. So if they, you know, play in a close game here with Tennessee, like, I just don't think that I could see them getting rid of him. Even though I think, you know, they probably need to think about that at this point. Also, side note, I am probably going to be at the game on Saturday. Yes, it's on Saturday night. I will probably be there. So very exciting. Hopefully they don't embarrass me in person. I've not been in person at an Ohio State game since my senior year, which the actual season, I graduated in 2018, so the season would have been in 2017. So I have not been to a game since probably, November of 2017. That's so crazy to me. So it'll be interesting to be back there at the old stomping grounds. And, you know, there's just a funny extra added layer with this game being what I'm calling the Jimmy Haslam game because of the Tennessee connection. We'll be very interested to see if he is present there at this game. All comes back to Jimmy Haslam. And the final question I got about Ohio State is, do you think OSU can actually win the national championship? I mean, theoretically, I guess, yes. I think they have the second best odds out of anyone on the books, but I don't have confidence after seeing what they continue to do in big moments, namely the Michigan game. It's hard for me to think that they can do it, but I guess that would be just a classic way to go through it, to, you know, lose in that way to Michigan and then still go on to win the national championship. That'd be so frustrating though, because it's like, Of course, it would feel great to win the national championship, but that Michigan game is so important, and it is so annoying that they lost it, that I think that will still loom across the season, even if they win the national championship. So I don't know. They definitely have a shot at it, but we will have to see how things go, especially starting with this game on Saturday. I think that'll be really telling of how locked in these guys are. All right, that is all I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed the different format with the mailbag questions. Just wanted to talk about something other than the same things week after week that the Browns are doing poorly. But hope everyone has a great Christmas. Next week, if I don't record, I'm sure I'll be back the week after, so keep an eye out for that. If you could please subscribe on the YouTube, leave a comment on the YouTube, subscribe or follow on wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, leave a review or rating, all of that good stuff. I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, even though they're still annoying me this week, go Browns.